Hello, I'm SandyRivas, and I'm a program manager at Microsoft. I've been at Microsoft for over 18 years, and I've seen dramatic changes in technology. But yet, small business owners and end users are still challenged with using technology to make profitable decisions. My brother is a perfect example. He started a new bar in Columbus, Ohio. It was quite the adventure that was a lot of work and a lot of fun. The first few months had great sales and the customers loved it. Relief, the bar was a hit. But then, after a while, my brother realized he wasn't making the profit margins he had expected, and he couldn't figure out why. He was looking through all the records he had, and he couldn't spot any issues or trends. But then he thought maybe he didn't have the right information, and he should replace his old cash register with more current technology. So he bought a POS system and got information, lots of information. It overwhelmed him and it still didn't help. So he thought he'd look into the inventory and he found some issues. He contracted for a regular inventory service. This helped to track down just how bad the inventory control was, and some adjustments were made. And he got even more information. The business was growing, but the margins were still not what he expected. So he tried various promotions and events. Some seemed more effective than others, but he still couldn't get the bank account to grow. He did everything right: promotions, events, great sales. He was using technology to capture sales and inventory information. He had tons of data. The answer has to be in the data, right? But he couldn't figure out how to decipher the data so that he could take any kind of tangible action. He was convinced he'd have to hire a business analyst to understand the vortex of data. In other words, spend more money to find out why he wasn't making more money. Can you relate? You're doing everything right, but your profit margins are flat. You just want to make informed decisions about your business. Simple questions, really. You just want answers. You're so frustrated, all you want to do is scream. Now, for me, I'm on the other side. Working at Microsoft all these years, I thrive in a world of collecting and analyzing data. It's second nature to me, and I know the power it has. So my response to this is, it's right in front of you. The money is in the data. So being the good sister that I am, I've helped my brother out some. Now, my brother is what you would call technically challenged. For him, surfing the web and checking email pretty much maxes him out. So it had to be really simple for him to access, understand, and analyze the data for our bar. After all, I'm his sister, so what's his is mine, right? Come on, isn't it the same with your siblings? For us, it's always been that way whether my little brother likes it or not. Let me show you how we transformed the mounds of data, spreadsheets, and reports to full-color interactive visual reports. At Microsoft, I work on a product called Power BI. Power BI is a suite of business analytic tools that allows you to connect to your existing data to create interactive visual dashboards and reports so that you can monitor your business, both at a glance as well as dive in and explore. Now remember I said connect to your existing data, because when you can see the trends and patterns, you can now make decisions on what actions to take to work towards the profit margins that you want. In the past, technology like this was way too complex and expensive to be easily incorporated. And that is the beauty of Power BI and what makes it unique. It can connect to all of your various existing data without interfering with your existing processes. It has pre-built connections to popular services. Your existing software vendors might already have Power BI connections. Check with them because we're adding more connectors every day. Power BI can bring in supplemental data to mash up with your existing data to discover trends and correlations. You can even have dashboards with live streaming information. And the best part? It's free. When you click Get Started, you'll notice that there are two options. Power BI Desktop is a downloadable tool that can be used to author your reports offline without being connected to the internet. This is how I created the reports that you will see. The other option, to sign up, is for the Power BI service. This is used to create dashboards from your reports and is how you can easily share the information. You can also create reports here as well. This is considered software as a service, or SaaS, so it lives in the internet. There is nothing to download. Ideally, you want both. Download the tool so that you can create your reports and explore them offline, and also sign up for the service so that you can share your reports and create dashboards. And all you need to sign up is a work email address. For this demo, I am not going to focus on showing how to use the tool or the service to gather data and create the reports, but rather I am going to focus on how we use the reports to explore the data. This visual exploration is what led us to key decisions that have had a significant impact on our business. As I go through each scenario, think about how this might apply to your situation and how these types of reports might help you to make better informed decisions. So we connected to our existing two-touch and Bevan Code data using the Power BI desktop tool and created reports that were published to our account in the Power BI service. We created a dashboard to surface the high-level information we're interested in. So let's take a look. We go to the browser and navigate to app.powerbi.com. Here we can see what we've chosen to be our default dashboard, but there are other dashboards as well. We've created a dashboard for our employees, a dashboard for our inventory management, and even a dashboard for our distributors. But I'll tell you more about that later. Let's go back to our Owner Manager dashboard and start exploring the data. This dashboard shows key information we're monitoring in tiles. And each one of these tiles is responsive, such that when you hover over it, it gives additional information to the data behind it in the form of a tooltip. Also, each tile is actually a link such that when we click it, it takes us to the report that we created in the Power BI desktop tool. Let's click on this tile. The report shows charts and graphs as a visual representation of our data, and they can have multiple pages as indicated by the tabs at the bottom. The reports are interactive. They have additional information when you hover over, just like the dashboard. But they are even more interactive. Every chart interacts with every other chart. When you click on a bar, it cross-highlights to allow you to see the relative impact your selection has made on the rest of the data. This is great for drilling down into details that you want to explore. There are also on-canvas filters. These allow you to filter all the data on your page according to your selection. Whenever you are making a selection, you can hold down the Control key to select multiple options. So now that you know the basics of navigating the report, let's start exploring. We can maximize the report area by clicking this button up at the top. We can learn from the past in order to project the future, and the ability to see the data gives us quicker time to insight as to what action we might want to take. Looking at this, we can easily see spikes and dips. For example, looking at the weekdays, What stands out here? Mondays, early on, proved too much for people to go back to work and keep drinking, so we decided to close on Mondays. Some spikes are one-time special events, for example in August of 2010. Now let's focus on the months. I can use this slicer, which is an on-canvas filter, to select just one particular month to focus on. This filters everything to the selection that I make. Patterns may be recurring events, which helps us to repeatedly forecast. For example, June was consistently growing in sales year over year due to an annual event in Columbus we've learned to plan for. In the past few years, we have backed off our involvement in the event, and it's clearly affected the sales. But this gives me insight so that I can evaluate the return on our investment when we are more involved in the events. Indeed, we had higher sales when we were more involved, so potentially our initial investments in the earlier years paved the way. But as you can see, we are still performing well, and we discovered that the profit margin was actually higher with a reduced involvement. You can see a similar pattern in December. However, this past year, performance was significantly worse. However, we know that this was due in large part to bad weather. This is a case where if we wanted to get more specific, we could bring in weather data and mash it with our sales data and see the actual ongoing correlation of how weather affects our sales. And it most definitely can affect sales. I've been told that Coca-Cola has found a direct correlation of temperature to sales. When temperatures go up 1 degree, their sales go up 1%. This is an example of something that you may think could not possibly be relevant, but until you track and see the data, you can't really even know. Let's drill a little deeper and see what insights we can capture from the data to make better business decisions. Using the slicer, we'll filter to 2011. And while we know we're closed on Mondays, Tuesdays are the next lowest day of the week. Let's filter to that. Right away, I'm drawn to the lowest Tuesday in week 6. If I select it, I can see what the date was. And I know we had a bad snowstorm that day and we closed early. Let's look at the next lowest Tuesday in week 16 and look at that date. It's April 12th, just prior to people filing their taxes. Interesting. Well, I guess they were too depressed to drink. However, they seemed to recover quickly or drown their sorrows because sales the following week almost doubled. But this information gave us insight to target a promotion the following year called Toast the Taxes. Let's take a look and see how effective our promotion was. We're going to turn on 2012 also, and now we can compare side by side. Let's look at week 6. No repeat snowstorm, that's good. And now week 16, looks like people were pretty into toasting their taxes. And how about the highest Tuesday of the year? Well, that's July 3rd, that's my birthday. Of course, everyone wants to celebrate that. Using the slicers, I can focus on certain days of the week to see which days perform better and which days I should focus attention and look to targeting promotions to increase sales. Tuesdays have always been a challenge for us. In 2014, we decided to have karaoke on Tuesdays to see if we could drive sales. Let's see what happened. We'll slice to 2014 and slice to Tuesdays. Looking at the month trend, it was clearly effective in increasing sales month over month until the warmer weather started in the spring, which drove people to the patio, which impacted the effectiveness of the karaoke on sales. Let's see if the pattern held true the following year. Using my control key, I can click on 2015 to see the 2 years side by side. And now look at the month. We can see that it was clearly effective and held true the following year. This is a great example of how we can use the data to guide us to take action and then evaluate the effectiveness of that action. We continue to monitor and, if necessary, course correct with new actions to drive towards the goals that we're trying to achieve. When we first opened the business, we determined that we needed to get an average of $2,500 in daily sales. Using KPIs, or key performance indexes, we can set goals and see a quick visual indicator to see how close we are to achieving the goal. Looking at this overall view, we set thresholds that would show green, yellow, and red indicators for the actual compared to the goal. Evaluating overall by year, we've done pretty good. However, in 2015, we've dropped off a bit. Besides looking at how we've done, this is very helpful to allow us to learn from the past in order to project the future. For example, using KPIs to visually spot trouble areas allow us to focus our attention on that area and evaluate how effective our efforts are and change course as necessary. We can use the slicers to select a month and see the performance through the years for that month. For example, January has been a problem in the past few years. February is especially challenging. Now that we are starting April 2016, let's get a little more specific so that we can get the information we need and make some informed decisions in order to make a plan for this month. Let's start with the historical trend for April and evaluate by weekday. Remember, we're closed on Mondays. If we slice to 2014, we can see that Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays were far below the goal. In 2015, Wednesdays went from red to yellow. So we're definitely trending up for Wednesdays in April. We want to continue the momentum, and now we can decide what actions we want to take to focus on these days that need attention. When looking at sales by items, there are a number of different scenarios we can evaluate. For example, just looking at it, we can clearly see the best-selling items through the years. We can slice on the years to see how items have shifted in ranking, and we can slice on the categories and even cross-filter. This is a great tool to not only analyze your top sellers, but to evaluate the poor performers and which items you may want to discontinue. You can also change the sort order to sort by name so that you can check on a particular item and its relative performance. Sometimes you may want to drive sales of a particular product. Maybe you have a promotion from the supplier or just excess inventory you want to move. In 2013, we noticed that Tuesdays, compared to other nights, Pabst Blue Ribbon sales were a bit higher. This gave us an indication as to the customer preferences, so we thought we'd try a promotion on Pabst Blue Ribbon and see if we could drive these sales a bit more. Let's look at 2014 now. Clearly, the promotion was effective as sales almost doubled and continued into 2015. Having the flexibility to slice and dice the visual representation of the data allows us to see the challenges, guide us to decisions, and evaluate their effectiveness. We also have dashboards and reports for each of our distributors with their products. This allows them to explore the data and see the effectiveness when they sponsor and participate in events at our bar. Sharing this data with our distributors gives us an advantage over our competitors who can't provide this type of self-service data exploration to their distributors. We also have reports for distributors to see their top-selling products so that they can analyze how they're performing. We also use Power BI to explore our inventory. We use a company called Bev & Co. that comes in and does inventory every other week. If you're not familiar with them, they take inventory by weighing the bottles and calculating the weight of the liquid and volume versus the weight of the glass. And they provide us with a spreadsheet that gives us all the detail of the inventory counts. This is great and it gives me all the information I need. But quickly, look at this and tell me which category has the worst inventory problem, or which brand. You can see there are some visual clues with the red numbers, but this doesn't help us to see where the problems are as a whole. And I can't even sort the values to see how the categories or brands compare to each other. And if you want to know the truth, these are not even numeric fields. They're actually text fields in the spreadsheet, which means they could not even be used in calculations or sorts as they are. But when I look at that exact same data in a visual way with Power BI, I can quickly see the numbers I'm tracking. I can see the categories compared to each other and quickly get the visual indicators of the items that are on versus off track. I still have the detail from the report if I want, but now I can actually work with it and I can sort the data. I can also select and have my cross-highlighting effective so that I can zoom into the data that I'm interested in exploring. I have another page of the report that is the same data, but I have set it up to view it by brand. I can select a category and see the brand performance and details. I can also see the inventory data of previous weeks. Now, what if I wanted to compare the current inventory to a previous inventory? With the reports as they come from Bev & Co., I literally have to compare one report to another. And if it was hard enough reading one spreadsheet, try reading and comparing two or more. But in a visual view of the exact same data, I just select which date periods I want to compare. I can also focus on a particular category. I can even drill down to the brands in that category by clicking this arrow and then double clicking on the chart. It shows the brand detail. And you can see that clearly I have an issue happening with Crown Roos. Let's look at the comparison by brand report and see what's going on. I'll select the vodka category and now I'll select the brand. Now I'll go back in time so that I can see what kind of pattern I might find. This is interesting. The serious problem started happening with the March inventories. Well, that gives me a clue to see what changed at this time frame that might have been the catalyst to the problem. I happen to know that this coincides with some personnel changes, so with those pieces of data, I can now make some targeted decisions as to my next steps to address this issue. Another way we can look for patterns is to simply look at the trends. The same as the other reports, we make the selections according to what it is that we want to see. We can select by category, by brand, And sometimes we find some very distinct patterns that lead to insights that we would not have been able to find otherwise. And again, the visual representation allows you to see the data in new ways that can expedite your time to action. The following scenario is probably the most powerful of all. It's where you can ask a question. To do this, we go back to the dashboard and we simply type our question. Notice as I type, it's answering as I go. And it shows me my response in a visual manner. Watch how I change the question. And as I type, each answer is taking place as it's getting more information. This is extremely powerful because you can just ask the questions that you're interested in finding the answers to and get a visual representation. This is still an interactive chart, just like on our reports, where I can interact with it. I can hover over it and get tooltips. I can also do a bit of customizing and turn on data labels. These features are available in the other reports as well. Finally, I can pin this to my dashboard so that I can have this chart on my dashboard at all times. When I return to the dashboard, I see it here at the bottom. I can edit it and I can give it an accurate title. So you see, Power BI is extremely powerful in not only showing you the visual representations of your data, but answering your questions. From what I've shared, you can see there's a significant difference between decisions and data-driven decisions. My brother made decisions to start the bar, to use technology to track his sales and inventory. These were excellent decisions and they helped. And he has a lot of data, but it was impossible for him to understand the data in order to know what action he should take to improve his profit margins. Some of you may be experiencing the same thing. It was when he was able to explore that data interactively in visual ways or simply asking questions that he got the answers he was seeking. That is what allowed him to make profitable, data-driven decisions. Isn't that what you want to do? Profitable decisions? And when the data is easy to understand, you have quicker insight to how effective your decisions were, and you are able to be more responsive. So let me ask you this. When you are making critical business decisions, which resource would you rather use? Power BI can integrate with your existing systems. You just need to connect to the data. Ask your existing software vendors if they integrate with Power BI yet. You've seen proof here. If I can do this with my brother's data, how much more could your software vendors do? If you're like me, to really understand something, I want to play with it myself. So I have set up a site for you at bar-analytics.com. And I have the inventory and the sales reports out there that you can interact with. Play with them. Imagine your data in this visual format. What kind of decisions could you make that might impact your business? Power BI really does bring self-service to a whole new level by allowing you to visualize and interact with your data in a whole new way. I really hope you will take the opportunity to check out Power BI. Play with the reports at the Bar Analytics site so that you might be inspired to look at your data in new ways that could lead to more profitable decisions. Are you interested in seeing more examples, more scenarios? Are you interested in seeing how these reports were created? Fill out the survey at aka.ms/bar demo and let me know your feedback. As I live in a world of collecting and analyzing data, I'd like to collect data about this demo. What did you think of this demo? Was it helpful for you? Would you like to see more scenarios? Would you like to see how these reports were actually created? Would you like to see how the data was connected? Fill out this survey. Thank you for your time. I hope you found this presentation informative and inspiring as to new ways to look at your data and the future of your business.